In the early morning hours of Thursday, the police department began an investigation into the reported runaway of a 12-year-old girl. As you know, 12-year-olds who run away are a priority for the police department because of that young age. During the investigation of the runaway as it progressed on Thursday, the police department got some disturbing reports that she was with other young people in a vehicle with firearms. There were apparently Snapchat posts that had come up that came to our attention that this 12-year-old was with other young people with guns. As the investigation progressed during the day Thursday in our efforts to locate her, there was the homicide of Mr. Yorlets that occurred on Torbert Street. Witnesses on Torbert Street reported seeing several young persons after the homicide run to a pickup truck, which we now know had been stolen on the 6th from Oak Grove, Kentucky. As we began looking at the descriptions provided by witnesses on Torbert Street, it became clear that the persons with the 12-year-old were likely the same ones in the pickup truck. So the investigation into this runaway turned into, or meshed with, the investigation of a homicide. As we continued the investigation into Mr. Yorlets' murder, the truck, the Chevrolet truck stolen from Kentucky on February 6th, became a priority. We located that pickup truck abandoned on Timberlands in the Hermitage precinct Thursday evening. Witnesses on Timberlands reported that several young persons got out of that pickup truck when they abandoned it and got into another crossover type vehicle, a vehicle they described as SUV crossover type situation. As the investigations continued to progress, by this point involving North Precinct detectives from the homicide investigation, the Juvenile Crime Task Force, Hermitage Precinct officers, and West Precinct officers, we developed information that these persons, these young people, had traveled across the city and were at the Walmart in West Nashville. Officers responded to the Walmart, saw some of them as they were coming out. A few of the 5 persons were taken into custody immediately. Others tried to run back in the store. They were quickly taken into custody. The vehicle in which they arrived at the Walmart, a Hyundai Santa Fe, which had been stolen in Brentwood, was recovered from the parking lot. The 5 young persons ranging in age from 12 to 16 were brought to the North Precinct. Interviews were conducted with some who agreed to speak to our detectives. And as a result of those interviews, the 5 were charged this morning with criminal homicide at juvenile court. Now, we have recovered 2 loaded guns, both of which had been reported stolen. One was recovered from the teens immediately at the Walmart. We received information that another gun had likely been stashed or hidden inside the store. Officers went looking in the store last night. As you may know, the West Nashville Walmart is expansive. We talked to loss prevention, the security people at Walmart. They were able to, I'm imagining, look at video and to see where exactly these people went. And loss prevention actually recovered the second stolen loaded gun from inside the store. All 5 individuals, as I said, are charged with criminal homicide. As far as what happened on Torbert Street on Thursday, what we believe through interviews and from the investigation is that Mr. Yorlets came outside. The 5 were in the stolen pickup truck. They saw him. They approached him initially. There was an interaction with him. His wallet was taken, was robbed of him during this interaction. We believe that he was asked for his keys. Perhaps they demanded his keys. When he said he was not going to do that, we think it was then that he was fatally wounded. Mr. Yorlets was able to make it back inside his residence and was there for a period of time before he was actually found by his housemate probably an hour or two after he was shot. It's my understanding that the ambulance personnel, MedCom, was able to detect a faint pulse or a faint heartbeat. He was rushed to Vanderbilt University Medical Center where he was pronounced dead. From what we know of Mr. Yorlets, he is an absolute innocent victim. We know that he is a graduate of Belmont University, 24 years old, was working at a local restaurant, and was also a member of an up-and-coming band.
You know, just last week, Metro Police Chief Steve Anderson said, "We call them juveniles, but these are just children." Can you shed some light again on how we're in this position where we've got truly young children accused of a truly horrific crime?
The entire Nashville community, every neighborhood in this city, should be concerned about what happened Thursday and the events of Thursday night. A truly innocent man was murdered outside his home, and as the investigation progressed, we now have 5 juveniles ranging in age from 12 to 16 who are in custody. We have 2 stolen loaded guns, and we have 2 stolen vehicles that they were involved with on yesterday. And while I can't get into detail because of state statutes, I will tell you that none of the 5 individuals is a stranger to the police department or the court system. We've got to do better. Families have to do better. The systems have to do better. It is unfathomable. You know, we had a chaplain on Thursday evening who had to speak with Mr. Yorlets' parents, his family in Pennsylvania. Can you imagine that conversation, having to talk to a Metro Police chaplain about the murder of their 24-year-old Belmont graduate son who was doing nothing wrong? He was simply outside his residence on Torbett Street. These people were in the alley, saw him, and they approached.
What Walmart? Which one was it? Can you say?
West Nashville.
West Nashville.
Charlotte, I think it's the one out by Nashville, past Nashville West. Yeah.
Any idea at this point who exactly pulled the trigger?
Suffice it to say that as a result of the information gleaned last night from interviews and our investigation, all 5 are charged. I'm not going to get into the substance of what they said during interviews. Some spoke, some did not.
You were talking about both guns, one found inside the Walmart and then the one in the car. Do you believe that both were used in this?
Well, that remains to be seen. As you all have seen even from a news conference just a few weeks ago, we test these weapons very meticulously as far as shell casings, bullets, etc., and that will all come through science as our laboratory gets involved.
Did the juveniles try to hide that gun in the Walmart? Was it on them, or did they stash it somewhere?
Well, I don't know from loss prevention exactly where it was found inside the store. We had a belief that there was a gun that had been placed in the store. The initial check by our police officers didn't find it. Obviously, this store it's a big Walmart, but through the help of Walmart loss prevention and some of the systems they have, we were able to recover that weapon. Look, we have 2 stolen loaded pistols that are now off the streets in our custody. Unfortunately, we have an innocent 24-year-old Nashvilleian who's lost his life because likely of one of those weapons. Again, the weapons need to be tested to see if they were indeed used, but these young people, we firmly believe, had possession of these 2 stolen loaded pistols.
Can you say where the guns were stolen from?
No, I don't have that at this point. I know that they were reported stolen. I haven't looked at the specifics of that.
Now, when they dumped this vehicle on Hermitage, the pickup truck, they jumped into that crossover. Is that the vehicle that was recovered at Walmart?
That is the presumption because it was a silver type vehicle. Now, this Santa Fe was stolen, to our understanding, from Brentwood. The Brentwood Police Department has reported that it was stolen, and I have not spoken with Brentwood this morning to know exactly when it was taken. You know, we continue to report week after week after week of the vehicles that are left with keys inside, the vehicles that are left with the key fobs sitting in the center console, sitting in a glove compartment, the unlocked vehicles from which things are taken. A lot of guns, as you all know, hundreds of guns were taken in 2018 from vehicles that were primarily unlocked. Easy access. If you park your car, regardless of where you are, lock the vehicle, and if you have a weapon in the vehicle and you're going inside, take the weapon with you. The thieves know that people are leaving their vehicles with keys around. The thieves know to look inside to see what might be laying around, whether it's a computer, whether it's a gun, or whatever. There's a lot of things Nashvillians can do to protect themselves and to protect all of us from these type of situations.
I know that the weapons still need to be tested, but I'm sorry if you went over this already. Do we know if those weapons were stolen from a home, from a store, from a car?
Natalie just asked, do I have the reports on the guns? And I have not looked at the stolen reports on the weapons at this juncture.
How did you guys link the truck to that alleyway behind Kyle Yorlets' house?
There were witnesses who reported that this truck was there. It was a distinctive red truck. It had a Georgia license plate. The witnesses reported the truck and told us of these young persons who were in the vehicle. And the descriptions, as we continued to understand what happened on Torbit, began to closely relate back to this investigation of the runaway. You know, throughout the day Thursday, we were working to find this runaway 12-year-old girl, again because of the age. Runaways 12 years old and younger have an immediate priority because of the age. And as that investigation progressed during the day on Thursday, we began receiving information that the 12-year-old was in a vehicle with other young persons and there appeared to be weapons. And that is the result of Snapchat posts that were occurring. So our concern rose considerably. And we were working on actually putting out to the community that we were trying to find this 12-year-old. We now believe that she was with other young people and that there were weapons with them. And then we get the report of the homicide, the shooting on Torbit. And the shooting at Torbit, as you all know, went out around 3 o'clock, but the actual interaction between the suspects, the 5, and Mr. Yorlets occurred sometime earlier. But Mr. Yorlets was shot and was able to make it back into his residence. And it was then, when his housemate came home, it was his housemate who found him.
And you said a 12-year-old has a record already?
All 5 individuals have had some interaction with the system.
But still, we have a 12-year-old who was reported missing or ran away, and now that person's charged with a homicide.
That's right. That's true. That's true.
It's just, I mean, it's just sad.
This is not something that people should just glance over. This happened in this community. Every neighborhood should take note of what's happened and think about what we, as a Nashville community, can do about this.
Don, I had some interaction with an officer the other morning on a stolen car, and he said, unfortunately, kids this age, talking about teenagers, 13, 14, 15 years old, with stolen cars, they don't get punished for this. Is this something the department's starting to see or have seen or noticed that it's kind of a revolving door involving kind of what they would call petty crimes?
Well, folks look to the police department for a lot of things. Remember that it's the police department's mission to apprehend those juveniles and adults who have broken the law and bring them before the courts. The police department has no role in the court decisions or what happens, what the ultimate accountability is. It's the police department's role to investigate crime, to identify those responsible, and to bring them before the courts.
Do you feel like, though, that they're getting what they deserve out of the courts? I guess is where I was going with that, because they act like that they stole a car, they serve no time, they really get no punishment other than the few hours they spend before they're let out.
Well, in both the juvenile and adult systems, our officers will tell you that they see a lot of the same people. I'll just let it go with that.